Hey, y'all. You mind if I call you y'all? 13 of you. All right, listen. I need a favor before we get started. I don't have, I'm not going to be looking at the chat. There's Chuck, there's Bill, there's Mac Interactive, whose first name I forget. Don's back in the house. Good evening, Don. Andrew, Hank. Donna's here. There we go. Half the gang's all here, says Donna. Frank Petrie in the house. Right. If anybody has a question you would like to ask or a topic you'd like to hear me hit, do me a favor, hit me up on Twitter with that during the show, because I'm going to do the same thing that I always do, which is I can't look at the chat that's going over there, but I got, I got a little bit of what the kids are calling stress. And it's not stress that other people don't have. It's just, I got a couple of announcements, a couple of things from people that are in my notes. But if anybody has anything else, at MacOSCan on Twitter, and I will actually check that during the middle of the show. So with that out of the way, let's do a thing. You want to? I say we do a thing. Hello, Adam. Hello, Lone. I don't think that's your real name. Is Locust your middle name? Right, here we go. Wall Street and stress, not necessarily in that order. It is Tuesday, the 3rd of November, 2020, and this is MacOSCan Live. I am the shrug emoji. Hi, I'm Ken Ray, welcoming you into another edition of MacOSCan Live. This is one of those, like a week and a day ago, a little over a week ago, there was a wildfire near my house, and I could smell it. And I spent, part of the day packing, and then I came and did this, but I was only like half here, and I sort of apologized and I sort of addressed that. And then we did a show, and it was fine. There's no wildfire today, or is there? Second part of the show, I will be answering questions, a couple of questions that people sent in on Twitter. The first half of the show, we're going to be talking about Wall Street stuff, because it's not really my security blanket. It's not really my comfort food, but it's a thing that I feel like I can kind of address. There are two things going on today, maybe three. There is the election, and then there is the stuff around the election. And right now, we're in that sort of hold your breath time where we don't know anything about anything that's going to happen at all. The other thing that's going on is there's no news. And I'm guessing that's because other people are also in hold your breath time. I would say at this point in the day, there's about 50% of the tech news and Apple news that there normally is. And none of it is terribly compelling. Now, it's possible that we're all hungover from all of the information about yesterday's or the One More Thing event coming up next week. It's also possible that people are, bugging out or weirding out or whatever. So I'm going to try to do a show like a show, and we'll see what happens. There are two notes from financial analysts that I'm going to be addressing on tomorrow's MacOSCan. Actually, it's more like I'm addressing them here. I'll just be telling you about them on tomorrow's MacOSCan. One is from Morgan Stanley analyst Katie Huberty, and the other one is from Evercore analyst. He's with Evercore, right? Yeah, Evercore analyst Amit Daryanani. The one from Katie Huberty is kind of interesting because she is both excited about and nervous about how much Apple is getting from the services side. And a note to investors seen by Apple Insider says Apple Insider, Katie Huberty writes that preliminary data indicates that the App Store net revenue grew 30% year over year in the month of October, which is both surprising and not. We've seen App Store revenue go up and up and up and up and up. There have been things that I've been worried about since the lockdown, as far as will there be enough income or disposable income to buy phones? Will there be enough to buy Macs? Will there be enough to buy iPads? All those things. Just as far as thinking about Apple. I mean, I've been worried about other things besides that, like, potential unrest across the country. Everybody getting COVID and you getting it too eventually. I mean, there are all kinds of things to worry about. But just on the Apple side, I've been wondering whether or not the money would keep going Apple's way. Now, I hit on something on last week's In a Few Minutes with Ross Rubin, which is basically we're living through a tale of two countries right now. Some people are doing fine. Some people have been unaffected or largely unaffected by the economic hit that a lot of people have taken. And of course, when I say a lot of people, that would be the other part of the country. It's wondering where they're going to sleep next month. People who can't afford food. So all of that makes it crazy to talk about this stuff, but this stuff is what we talk about, so I'm going to go ahead and talk about it. It's not surprising that App Store revenue grew that much because the people who still have money, the people who are still making money, are not going to the movie. They're not going to restaurants. They're not going on vacation. They're still spending money, but the things that they can spend money on aren't the same as the things that they were able to spend money on before. So if you're sitting around bored, why not blow more money on apps? Because you got not more money than you had before necessarily, but a lot of the things that you might have spent the money on, you're not spending it in the same way. Also, we're doing a lot more working from home. She doesn't actually break down in this note where the different money is going. Is it going to games? Is it going to productivity apps? What's it going to? You got to figure there's been a lot of money spent on productivity apps and services since the lockdown began as well. And with the idea of going back to the office looking further and further away, or at the very least no closer, it's not surprising really that people are spending money on Macs, that they are spending money on iPads, and that they are spending money on apps. What these trends suggest, says Huberty, is that users continue to engage with the App Store at a robust rate, spending more on apps and in-store purchases despite slowing app downloads, driving net revenue per download to all-time highs in October. This again goes to what I was just saying. You have a lot of people who aren't spending money anymore, but then you have the people who are still spending money, spending more. And that's what she's saying is happening here. Downloads are going down in her estimation, yet revenue is going up. People have money to spend on apps, they're still spending it. However, Huberty points out in a separate research note that the potential risks to the services business are broadening. She's looking specifically at the 10K filing where Apple said, it was what I joked about either yesterday or the day before on macOS Ken, that if regulators do anything to hurt that 30% cut that Apple gets, then Apple is going to make less money. What's really interesting is both Apple Insider and Philip Elmowitz, Apple 3.0, ran mentions of this note on their sites. Apple Insider actually leans in hard to the whole regulatory scare. Philip Elmowitz pointed out that if you read her whole note, which I don't know how to get that, so I haven't, that's just her headline. The possibility that the government might lean hard on Apple and that Apple might end up taking a hit on the bottom line is her headline, which makes her a bit like, Cult of Mac, Apple Insider, any site that you can name, which, puts up a flashy headline. And then once you actually read it, the real issue is not nearly as scary as it looks. In fact, she does go on in her note to say when this does pan out, she thinks the risk likely lies more in the fixed portion of the payment, less so in the variable portion, because the way Google pays, they don't just give Apple $12 billion and call it good. They pay based on actual search interaction. And so while Google may not pay as high a rate for the initial placement, they might still keep paying a ton of money for, all the searches that we do. Now, I still come back to, on an upcoming issue of the checklist, we're going to talk about the story that you and I talked about here last week, which was the whole Apple building its own search engine to rival Google. I still don't know that that's going to be a thing that happens. I think that Apple is more interested in doing search. I know they hired John Giannandrea, the guy from Google, who was actually the head of Google Search for 8 years, to make Siri better, to make machine learning and the stuff that your phone can do by itself better, to make it know more. My assumption is so you don't have to go to Google anymore. So you don't have to go to Bing. You don't have to go to DuckDuckGo. Still, in a conversation that I've been having over the past couple of days, why wouldn't Apple do both? Why wouldn't Apple go ahead and put up, its rival to Google online so that, I don't know, whatever. I'm like I say, I'm a little bit scattershot today. I apologize. Anyway, She's also, even though she put it as her headline, the regulatory thing as her headline, she also points out that, these investigations typically take several years, which gives Apple plenty of time to improve user adoption of other services, which can mitigate the potential Google impact. It's not much ado about nothing, but it's also not sound and fury because that signifies nothing. You get the idea. The other note that I was interested in was the one from Amit Daryanani, the Evercore analyst. He has removed the tactical outperform rating on Apple shares. So he's still got an outperform rating on Apple shares. He's still got a price target on the shares of $135, but he has removed the tactical outperform because the thing that he was looking forward to were September earnings. So I guess he thought they were going to be pretty good because now they've come in and they were pretty good. He still likes everything about Apple going forward. He likes the strength of iPhone 12. He likes the way services are growing. He thinks the company is firing on all cylinders. Given ongoing macro uncertainty, though, he thinks that the prudent call is to take it off of the tactical outperform. Now, what's interesting is a tactical outperform, if you read further down on Evercore's disclosure, is basically giving an outperform juice. It's like gunning it, right? You're going 60 miles an hour, but you want to get there just like 2 minutes earlier, so you gun it and you go up to 70 for just a little bit, and then maybe you see a cop, maybe you see you're going to get there in time, whatever, you ease up on the gas a tiny bit. So they've still got an outperform, but they don't have a tactical outperform because the thing that they were anticipating, which was the earnings call from last week or the earnings report from last week, that's done. So we basically have Amit Daryanani acting like a day trader and Katie Huberty acting like somebody who writes gotcha headlines for websites. They're just people like you and me. I found it amusing. Sorry, I'm not really saying that's who they are and what they're doing. It is interesting. I didn't know about the tactical outperform from Evercore. I didn't know that that was a thing. That's basically like somebody pulling you aside and going, "No, seriously, just for now." Because they're not saying sell. They're just saying that extra oomph is gone for now. At least that seems to be how I read it. What's his name? Philip Elmer DeWitt actually says the way he sees it, he thinks Daryanani expected better from Apple post earnings, and it didn't happen. So that's why he's tapping the brake. Elmer DeWitt thinks there might be a better way to say that, but of course, that's not exactly what Daryanani said. So we're all guessing about what everybody's guessing now. And ain't that the way to be? A couple of questions from a couple of people coming up in just a moment, and then then we'll be done for the day, I suppose. I want to do that thing really quickly, though, and remind you about the other stuff that I do. Sorry, got another question in, so I'm excited about that. I do a few different shows. I do a show for Secure Mac called The Checklist. This week, we are either talking about, and I haven't quite decided yet, we're either talking about security issues coming up in macOS Big Sur, or we're talking about the search thing that you and I were just talking about a moment ago. That is a fun show. It is an interesting show. My assumption is if you listen to it for a long time, you will come to know a decent amount about security. And the reason that that is my assumption is because when I started doing the show 4 years ago, I knew nothing about security. Nothing. And now I know a little bit more. I'm not saying I'm an expert because I'm far from it, but I think if you tune in, you'll learn some stuff, or at the very least, get your mom, your dad, your uncle, your cousin who knows nothing about tech, who proudly says, I don't understand computers. Please turn them onto this show because we're doing our best to let everybody know as much as we can. Also want to let you know that In a Few Minutes is back for the remainder of the week. I had some trouble scheduling this week, but Peter Cohen is going to be joining us for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday's show. Talked to him earlier today. Super excited. I would love for you to check that out. Peter Cohen, going to spin the wheel of stuff. Admit it. You've always wondered about his first car. There's one place to find out. Well, two. You can ask Peter Cohen, or you can listen to In a Few Minutes. That starts again tomorrow. Right. As I said at the top of the show, I had a few people ask me a few questions. We'll go ahead and hit those really quickly. The problem about saying, ask me a question and I'll answer it is I may not have the answer John wanted to know how the events of today affect Apple stock. I'm curious which events of today John was talking about. If you're talking about the election, I would have honestly, I'm going to pass on that question. It's a great question. It's the kind of question people should ask. Certainly, that is one of the things that Darian Nani was talking about when he was saying, given ongoing macro uncertainty, I would like to know, and we're not, well, whatever. I'm going to pass on that question. Thank you very much for asking it. I asked you to ask me a question. You did. I appreciate it. I feel way out of my depth addressing that question. So pass. Wayne wrote in, do you think there will be anything besides Apple Silicon Macs at next week's event? Each of the other events has had 2 items. Doesn't mean there will be 2 items, just seems like there might be. I'm curious why everybody thinks there's only going to be a laptop next week. I don't see why there couldn't be an updated Mac Mini. Not that that's super exciting, but I don't see why there couldn't be an Apple Silicon Mac Mini. I mean, since that's basically what the developer kits that they send out to developers to try their code on. I mean, with a faster processor, with a better processor than the one that they sent out. There might be different kinds of Macs. I mean, right now, the thought is that there's going to be a MacBook Air and a MacBook Pro. Technically 2 things, but they're both Mac laptops. I mentioned the conversation I had with Peter Cohen earlier, because the thing that I keep getting not stuck on, but it's where I want to get stuck, is the fact that they said one more thing, because one more thing usually means one more thing past the thing you know, or at least it has an Apple parlance to this point. What's interesting is Peter didn't seem to want to bet on whether or not there was going to be anything besides the MacBooks. He is, however, annoyed that they used the one more thing moniker. I believe what he said was write your own material. It's only the one more thing that raises questions. That said, I don't know. There could be the AirTags, what I told Peter. And so now there's going to be no reason for you to listen to it in a few minutes, because I'm telling you now. What I told Peter was the thing that I like about the one more thing idea, I would like for them to be aspirational. I would like for them not to give us a roadmap exactly, but to give us an idea of the direction we're going. Nothing that Apple has ever done. So there's no reason to think that they will. It is what I would personally like. As far as a barn burner device, though, I think the thing that we're going to be talking about when we're done is going to be the new Macs. They might start with the AirTag, or they might start with the over-the-ear headphones or something. But I think the thing is probably going to be the Apple Silicon Macs. And finally, there was one more question that came in on Twitter. Ryder was there asking, is the SE good value? What are you looking for? That's sort of my take on it. I mean, it's not as good a value now, I would say, as it was a couple of weeks ago. Like if you wanted the SE because of a smaller size, well, then what you really want is the 12 mini. If you wanted it to save money, it's still good for that, although you're talking about not nearly as much money now to get into an 11, which I assume is a better phone, although I don't have the specs in front of me, so I can't tell you which one is best specs-wise. It's a good value for an Android switcher, somebody who's used to paying $300 or $400 for a phone, who could never get into the iPhone because it was always much more than that. It's a good value for them. It's good if you've got a kid and you want them to have an iPhone, but you don't necessarily want to blow $700, $800. You're willing to spend a little bit less. It's kind of like every Mac. I mean, you go into the Apple Store, except you don't go there. You go to Apple's website now. And, look around and try to figure out which one is going to be the amount of computer that you need. I bought a MacBook Pro one time when it turns out I had absolutely no need for a MacBook Pro. And that's not this one. I feel like I bought right this time, but I also consulted a few more people this time when I bought this MacBook Pro, except for the blessed keyboard. I'm looking at you, blessed keyboard. Before, though, I bought a Pro because I thought a Pro was what I needed, because I'm a Pro, so I need a Pro, right? And then something happened to that computer, and I ended up working off of a MacBook Air, a MacBook Air that was a year older than the MacBook Pro that I had. I ended up working off that machine for 1.5 to 2 years. So it turns out I didn't need quite as much computer as I thought I needed the first time. I do think I need that now, but that's a whole other thing. The iPhone SE is a great value for the people for whom it is a great value. That's what I would say. There are all kinds of variables in there that make it good or, or bad. If it was only for the size, then no, it's not the best thing anymore. If it's getting at a good price, then yes, it's good. And if it's for kids, the one drag is it doesn't have ceramic shield, but you should buy a kid an OtterBox anyway, and one of those glass covers, and a cage around the whole thing, and pretty much make it unusable. That's okay. If they can use their phone, then you never see their faces. I don't know. I think that was the show. What do you think? I'm curious what your thoughts are on well, anything, any of these shows, or anything else you hear on maybe Mac OS Ken, or in a few minutes. There are a few ways to leave comments. You can, of course, leave comments right here on this YouTube video if you are catching this as a YouTube video as opposed to as an audio podcast. Really, though, the best way to get stuff through to me is email info@macoscan.com, info info@macoscan.com. You can also hit me up on Twitter, but there's a lot of stuff going on Twitter. So, but that's at macosken, MACOSKEN, at macosken. If you are live in the chat room right now, please stay in the chat room because I'll come by there as soon as we are done here. If you are not live in the chat room and think, man, it sounds like they're having fun in the chat room, 3:30 p.m. Pacific, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, other times, other places, consult your local star charts. We do that Monday through Friday, sometimes with a topic. Everybody have a safe and relaxing evening. We'll do Mac OS Ken tomorrow morning. We'll do in a few minutes tomorrow morning. We'll do Mac OS Ken live again tomorrow afternoon, and I will talk to you soon. Top of the world, everybody. I just did a show. Top of the world, ma. Right. I'm going to take a sip of coffee. And man, alive, you guys are just going. I hope there were no questions for me to address during the show because I didn't look over here. Webb Bixby in the house. Oh, you're at home today. Are you okay, Webb? Is anybody answering Roger's question about is he insane for wanting to replace his 6S with an SE? Happy election day. Oh, Frank. I'm sorry, Hank. I was looking at Frank, but you're Hank. Sorry, Hank. Yes, happy election day to you as well. Hello, Andrew. Happy Democracy Day. I like the way you're thinking, John. YouTube is mean to me. Why is YouTube mean to you, Lone Locust Productions? Derek was here or is. Well, you guys are pretty much just talking to yourselves today. That's great. I mean, that's fantastic. I love that everybody comes here and does that. Yeah, Peter. Hey, Chuck, are you saying yeah, Peter, because Peter Cohen's back on? I will find out your answer when I get to the bottom of all this. Team Ken investigates. I am Team Ken, by the way. I am Lone T Ken, Team Ken Productions. Interesting. Mac Interactive thinks there's going to be an iMac next week. I don't see why there wouldn't be. I'm fascinated. I know I've said this during the show. I just keep getting fascinated by the people who are like, no, it's only going to be laptops. Why would it only be laptops? It's not like Apple doesn't know they can do this at this point. If they don't know they can do this, then they're in for a world of hurt. And if they do know they can do this, why dribs and drabs? Why not go ahead and start? I mean, the big one, of course, is the Mac Pro, the modular Mac Pro. That's not going to happen anytime soon, I don't think, but it'll happen. Excuse me. Bill's saying he wants to see if they come up with a new name. You mean besides the Mac? You think they're going to call it Apple? Think they'll call it an Apple computer? That'd be a funny idea, having changed their name from Apple Computer several years ago. Vern says what he really wants to do is avoid all the bumps in the road, let all the early adopters find the problems and fix them for him before he makes the jump. It's an interesting idea. I get it. I wish I was made of money because I'd love to buy one and not have it be my primary machine. Usually what I do is I run a Mac until the wheels come off, and then I go ahead and buy another one. And so I'm secure, relatively speaking, with the exception of the keyboard on this computer. I'm secure in the knowledge that the machine's going to work. I wish, if they fulfill my fantasy of yesterday of actually coming out with computers that, rival Dell in cost or rival, some kind of business Windows laptop in cost, might be worth playing with. My hope then, though, is that I would just stop using this computer and start using that one. I don't think that's going to happen, but I don't know. Holy cow. Thanks, Nabil. I have no setup. I have no setup. So yeah, my setup is the camera on my Mac and YouTube. That's it. So I may get in touch with you. Hey, John McKee finally finished Ted Lasso. Definitely want more, right? Totally not a surprise that they signed him for a third season. Weird they signed him for a third season, having not even started shooting the second season, but not bad. Mac Interactive says he's only watched one Ted Lasso. He'll start more. Yeah, but you're in the UK, aren't you? I wonder how those jokes will play for you. Hopefully well, because I know they're not mean-spirited at all. If anybody looks stupid in that, it's Ted Lasso, but I think nobody looks stupid. Roger wants to know if I've considered an external keyboard until I get this keyboard fixed. I haven't, and the reason is because I work horribly. I actually use my laptop as a laptop. This is the only time of day. This and when I'm recording another show is the only time of day when my laptop is actually on a desk. The rest of the time, my laptop is in my lap, either on the couch or I have a very comfortable chair in another room where I sit and work for hours at a time. So I would actually have to change my whole workflow. And look, honestly, the keyboard is okay. I make more typos than I want to because of this keyboard. Every now and then I'm, still blown away by the stuff that we're able to do. It's just kind of disappointing because I spent, I want to say $2,000 on this computer a few years ago. And, to get it and have the keyboard glitch out is annoying. Where are we? Oh, wow. There's an excellent question. Sorry, I totally forgot about the fact that the iPhone SE doesn't have 5G. Is it a good value because of that? Holy cow. I didn't even think about that part. I now have to say it depends on how long you want to hold on to it. Probably they come back from relegation during the second. Here's the question, John. No, I can't do it without spoilers. I wish we were talking over a bourbon because I have ideas about how I want season 3 to go, but whatever. Right. I think we're about done. La la la. There you go. To block out the spoilers. Well done. Listen, everybody have a really good evening. I don't know, what anybody is hoping for. I don't know what anybody is expecting. If you're feeling any level of stress, try to be nice to yourself. We'll do this tomorrow. Sun will come tomorrow. We'll see what happens tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Talk to you soon.